All right, so let's dive right into a fantastic story. We're going to the golden city of Vijayanagar, where there's this incredible palace, but it's completely gripped by a terrifying mystery. We're talking whispers coming from the walls, shadows moving all by themselves. The whole court is absolutely convinced the place is haunted. But is it? Really? This is a story all about how one person's logic can slice right through mass hysteria. And right away, you can feel how high the stakes are. The king himself said it best with this question. This shows you this isn't just some simple ghost story. When fear takes root in the heart of a kingdom, it just paralyzes everything. Justice, order, reason, it all starts to crumble. The king knows he's got to solve this, and fast. So you have to ask, how did things get this bad? Well, it all kicked off with just a single spooky experience. Let's take a look at how this fear just started spreading like wildfire, turning a place of power into a palace of pure panic. It all started one night with a guard, a guy named Ranga. He's making his usual rounds in the totally deserted eastern wing, and suddenly he hears these strange slithering whispers. They didn't really sound like human voices, you know? They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once, almost like they were coming right out of the stone itself. And just like that, the seeds of supernatural fear were planted. And it didn't just stop with weird sounds. Oh no. Just moments after hearing those whispers, a huge, heavy door at the end of the hall just swings open, all by itself. There was no wind, not a soul in sight, just this eerie, silent movement in the dark. Now that is what sent Guard Ranga running, and his story? It was the spark that lit the fuse of panic for the whole palace. And what's really fascinating here is just how contagious that fear became. I mean, it wasn't just one guard's spooky story anymore. Pretty soon, other guards were flat out refusing to work there. Then a maid swears she saw shadows dancing on the walls. It even affected the animals. The massive royal elephants, normally fearless, they got super agitated and wouldn't go anywhere near that wing. The entire palace was just buzzing with rumors of curses and angry spirits. So the court's first reaction was, well, pretty predictable. They tried to fight superstition with more superstition. Priests were chanting mantras, scholars were digging through ancient books about spirits, and of course, none of it worked. But then a totally different kind of weapon was brought into the mix, the brilliant mind of Tenali Rama. And this right here really highlights the huge conflict at the heart of the story. On one side, you've got the court's method, which is all about rituals, assumptions, and old beliefs. And on the other side, you've got Tenali. His method is all about asking practical questions, making careful observations, and, most importantly, demanding evidence. It's a classic showdown between fear and reason. And Tenali himself just puts it perfectly. He completely understood that you can't fight a mystery with brute force or with chanting. You have to take it apart, piece by piece. You have to poke at it with curiosity and logic until the whole thing just falls apart. This is the exact philosophy he's about to put into action. So while everyone else was terrified to even look at the eastern wing, Tenali does the absolute unthinkable. He volunteers to spend the entire night there, alone. See, he knew he couldn't solve this puzzle from a distance. He had to get in there, become part of the experiment, and gather his own data firsthand. And Tenali's method here is just a masterclass in how to investigate something. He doesn't just sit there waiting to be scared. No, he follows a clear, almost scientific process. First, he waits for the haunting to actually happen. Then he introduces a new variable, the sharp clink of a dropped coin. Then he observes the reaction. The whispers stop dead. Now that is a huge clue. Real ghosts probably wouldn't care about a dropped coin, right? He repeats the test to be sure, and this time he hears a shuffle. And that's all he needs. Finally, he uses light to expose the truth. And the light revealed everything. Hiding behind a pillar was a hidden wooden panel, leading to a secret passage inside the walls. That was the breakthrough. The source of this great mystery wasn't supernatural at all. It was physical, it was man-made, and most importantly, it was completely explainable. So with the discovery of that secret passage, the entire illusion just starts to unravel. Tenali now has the key to explaining every single strange thing that had terrified the palace for weeks. It was time to finally unmask these so-called ghosts. And the explanation for all of it was actually pretty simple once you knew the trick. Those whispers coming from the walls? Just a couple of guides talking, their voices echoing through that hollow passage. The doors that opened on their own? Yep, they were being pulled by thin, almost invisible ropes operated from inside the walls. Even the flickering torches and moving shadows, all simple mechanical tricks. It was an elaborate hoax, but a totally logical one. So why on earth would someone go to all this trouble? Well, the motive, as it so often is, was plain old human greed. A group of corrupt palace officials were convinced that an ancient treasure was buried somewhere beneath that wing. So by creating this terrifying haunting, they scared everybody away, which gave them the freedom to search for the loot every single night, completely undisturbed. Fear was just a tool to clear the way. Okay, so the mystery is solved, the bad guys are caught, but the real power of this story, the reason we still tell it, lies in the timeless lessons it gives us about critical thinking, about fear, and about the nature of truth itself. So let's look at the wisdom that Tenali left us with. Tenali's final explanation to the king just sums up his whole deductive process in one brilliant, witty sentence. See, he wasn't looking for supernatural clues. He was looking for human reactions, and boy, did he find one. So what are the big takeaways for us here? Well, first, fear thrives in the places where critical thinking stops. The second people stopped asking questions, the ghosts started winning. Second, a calm, observant mind is your best weapon against any illusion. And finally, and this is a big one, remember this. When someone is working really hard to make you afraid, it's often because they're trying to hide something. Fear is a fantastic distraction. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. You know, we all have haunted wings in our lives, problems or fears that seem totally mysterious and overwhelming. But as Tenali Rama showed us, maybe they aren't as scary as they seem. Maybe they just need a little bit of calm observation and the courage to ask the right question.